Hello, and once again, you are very welcome to Destination Newry TV coverage of Down GAA results and fixtures for next weekend. Jarlath Tinley is my name. I am joined once again by Patsy Russell and Paul Rooney. Hello, guys.
Good evening,
Hello,
Jarlath.
Glad to be here tonight again.
Yes, Paul.
Another exciting weekend of games.
Last weekend, third round of fixtures in both senior and intermediate lads, and I suppose right on cue, controversy on a number of games. So some great games, and can I just add at the very beginning, Patsy, I need to congratulate you. I seen somebody, I went to look for it. Somebody had put up a post about. No, I'll find it. I don't want to spoil it. I'll find it when you're talking. But anyway, your coverage and your commentary is excellent. And Paul, your camera work is exceptional too. I have to tell you, on Sunday night, I actually went down the street to watch it because technology now allows you to take these things and throw them up onto the big screen. And I'm not joking you. There wasn't one glitch in the hour and a half that I sat and watched it. So it was an exceptional coverage, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, listen, we'll get right into it. Patsy, you were on the mic last Friday night for Breda versus Loughlin Island. Now, Breda have come till the end of the line for this year. They went down 2-8 to 118 versus Loughlin Island.
Yeah, this was a very entertaining game, Jarlath, especially in the first half. Breda got a goal after 5 minutes. That put them a point ahead. Liam O'Keefe with a goal, but Loughlin Island worked their way well into the game, and by the short whistle they were leading 9 points to 1-4. And then at the start of the second half, just a few minutes in, Paddy McKenny was fouled. They were awarded a penalty, and John McCarthy, an experienced campaigner, put it in the net. And as I say, they went on to win. Breda got a goal near the end, sort of a consolation through Joan Hughes. But some excellent displays from both teams, Jarlath. Dan Gordon, what can you say about Dan? You know, he's so cool on the ball. He's got time. He's got space. He reminds me a bit of Barry Green, that type of player. Never puts a foot wrong. You know, we talked last week about him playing in the Ulster final 2003 as a 19-year-old. He hit the net twice that day, and he's still a great talent. In the middle of the field, Johnny Flynn, Davin O'Toole, two great midfielders. And up front, they had the McClements, Crosby Steckland and Arn. They had 7 points between them. Also, Rory Mason chipped in with 4 points. You know, so as I say, Breda had hard triers, and Aidan O'Keefe, Michael Robinson, Brenton Galvin, Cormac Araw, Joe Shields, and Donald Hughes. And I tell you what, Breda have nothing to be ashamed of. They put up two great shows against Rostrevor, your own club, Jarlath, and against Loughlin Island. But Loughlin Island will go into the semi-final or quarter-final against Ballyholme full of confidence. And as I say, it was a great game to start the commencement of the weekend off. So it was.
Fair enough. Well, Paul, you anything you want to add there, or are you keeping your powder dry for the next one?
Not much, Cal, but just to say Loughlin Island are. I'm proud it's all right, Jarlath, but Loughlin Island, they're a good side. They've plenty of footballers, they're full of football. Patsy mentioned the Mason there, and the Clements is all capable of scoring. And I tell you what, they'll fancy themselves in the quarter-final against Ballyholme next weekend. And it'll be an interesting one, Jarlath. I'm looking forward to it, so I am.
There's also Ben O'Reilly back, Jarlath. Ben O'Reilly.
Yeah, Ben's back too, yeah.
Yeah, so an experienced campaigner. Ben was in I think he was teaching over in England there, but he's back now and he's playing well for them. So we bit of experience there. There were 3 or 4 boys who would have been on the championship team in 2008 and 9. They lost to the Bridge in Kilcoo. So, there's no reason they'll go in against Ballyhone confident, and that's a flip of a coin, that one, Jarlath. So
absolutely, yeah. And a big praise, Patsy, at the end of it, like you're into a county semi-final. And
how the predictions going up? How the predictions going up, one, Jarlath? Have you got them to hand? No.
Yeah, the 3 of us went for Lough Neil on that one.
There you are. Yeah. Good start for tonight then.
Well, as you said at the outset, Jarlath, this could be the year for an outsider, and there's 3 or 4 teams there that maybe might be classed as outsiders in some people's books, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later on.
We'll get a wee look at this weekend's fixtures, Patsy, later in the show. So moving on then till the Sunday, and I'm sure Mr. Rooney has something to say about this. Clonduff stole it at the death. 2-11 to North 16. Paul Rooney, take her away.
Unbelievable, Jarlath. And I was there right in the heat of the fire, right in the middle of it, and I enjoyed it. And I'm glad, I'll have to say this now before I start, I'm glad this show wasn't on Sunday night, because you would have got a different response out of me, you know what I mean? And like I'll mention too, before we get right into this, we're going to start calling this Sunday in Park S. It's going to be rename it Super Sunday, because this last few weeks, Jarlath has fired up us a couple of queer debatable options, and on the Mayobridge match, and like football wise, and I have 3 nephews playing for Clonduff. Everybody out there knows it, and like football wise, if the score, if they had been beat for 6 or 7 points, there wouldn't have been, it would have been actually seen as a bit of, a fair enough result. And the truth of it is, you see, it was actually the final whistle, Jarlath. I still thought the Bridge won for a few seconds. I was in bewilderment. And on that subject too, I was going through Castlewell on the Monday, and I met a girl, I was going in for a bite to eat, and she says to me, "Oh, I seen you Sunday." She says, and I says, "I never seen you," but she was doing physio for Clonduff. She had a mask on her. She sort of thought too that Clonduff, she took her a minute or two to realise Clonduff had won it, but in reflection to it all, Jarlath, and when you reflect right into it, like Mayobridge had the chance at, I think it was 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes into injury time. They got a penalty, and it was a penalty. It was a stonewall penalty, and like they proceeded to miss it. And in all that, like, you have to admire some people comes to the fore, and in all that, their whole thing. Like, there's a man there. I was standing right beside him. I was closer to him at some of the umpires. Like, Neil Traynor saved the penalty, and like shortly after that, Neil Traynor, he's a stalwart about Hilltown. He's been about Hilltown a long time. He doesn't get much press, but I tell you what, he made 2 saves at the end, in injury time in that game. Like 2 goals he saved for he's kept Clonduff in the championship. And as I said, I didn't even realise the Bridge lost it. I was that demented, you know what I mean? But anyhow, everybody's talking about it, the goal, or was it a goal, or was it not a goal, or was it a goal, and we'll have to debate it, Jarlath. I think we'll have to debate it. As we all know that.
Yeah, let's go straight to it, Paul. Get a look at it, and we'll throw it out there.
We're going to have a wee look at it here, Jarlath, and we'll let the viewers have a look at it, and we'll let everybody else. And there you see the ball dropping in there to Shield. And I'll point out to everybody now, it's a funny thing you wouldn't notice, Jarlath. You see the nets in Uri, the nets. If you look at the screen there now, everybody, I'm sure, can see it up the screen. But you see the depth of the nets in Uri. Compared to any all ground, the depth of them nets is a lot shorter. You know what I mean? So you're in the net in Uri a lot quicker than you're in it. Seeing nets in Rostrava and the nets in Mayobridge and all, they're a lot deeper than that, if you know what I mean. And looking at that there now, that's the camera I was on, Jarlath. I actually took that shot there, and everybody has seen it. We'll look at it again here. We'll look at it from a few different angles, and you'll see it coming again here, maybe slowed down a bit. And with all the technology and everything we have available to ourselves, and everybody's opinion on it, we reckon there could have been 50,000 maybe people viewed this over the weekend. It's controversial. But the thing I have to say about it, Jarlath, my take on it is, I was on that camera, and we all have our opinion here. And I was saying there before we got into this, and the GAA, along the road you meet loads of people that you would never meet in normal life, Jarlath. That's part of the GAA. You know what I mean? And the people that, were officiating on this occasion here, they're friends of mine. I met them through the GA, and hopefully we'll still be friends after it. But, like, it's a big, big call to make. And I was of the opinion that the ball has to be fully over the line before you can shout. And, like, my take on it, George, only my opinion, and it's everybody else has taken their own opinion on it, and it's controversial. And I'll also add to it, it wasn't the illusion of the game for Mayobridge. Probably the missed penalty, maybe stuck it over the bar, would have been a different option. You can look at it all different ways. Maybe the controversial free kick at the end, but my take on that goal, and I was probably closest, the third closest man till that, actual incident taking place, and I thought Jarlath, the full ball definitely wasn't over the line, but that's my opinion on it. The umpire had his own opinion. The referee consulted with him. He took them on his word. I thought, definitely, in my opinion, that the full ball wasn't over the line. And I'll ask Patsy and I'll ask yourself to discuss it, but it's not, at the end of the day, as I say, it's not the winning and the losing of the game for Mayobridge. Probably the missed penalty would have a lot to do with that. Also, at the end, the save from Neil Traynor to keep them in it when the Bridge were clean through. He had a point-blank save. They missed the rebound to put it over for a draw. Loads of things went on in that game, Jarlath. It's like as I said to you a while ago, we're going to call it Super Sunday Park Esther because it's throwing up some stuff and we're enjoying it. And that's another reason I'll say to everybody out there. That's probably the reason why I was back in Park Esther Sunday nights, because you love their game that much and it throws up that much. It's one of the variables. It is a variable with no control over it. You can see what happens. But at the end of the day, right, it boils down to this. The Bridge are out of the championship, and that goal or that decision is part of the way, I put them out. And I'm sure they feel aggrieved about it, and they didn't put up that big of a fuss after Jarlath. But it's knockout football, and we all know, and things go your way and things don't. But everybody has their own opinion. You have yours, Jarlath. I'm sure Patsy will have his opinion. And at the end of the day, that's my take on it. I was close enough to the action. What do you think yourself, Jarlath? What about you, Patsy?
No, I'm gonna give way to Patsy here, because Patsy, listen, the context of the game, as that was a first half incident. Paul is humble enough to suggest that he does not blame that particular incident for the losing of the game on the part of Mayobridge. Clonduff never threw the towel in. They kept plugging away, and they got there and they got over the line in the end. So it's going to be very hard, Patsy, for you to give us your overview of the whole 60 minutes without touching on the incident there that we've seen the video of. But have a rattle at it there, and then we'll come back to actually talk about the specifics of that particular incident.
Well, I wasn't at the game, Jarlath. I watched it at home in Park TV, and I was sort of, whenever the green flag was waved, I just thought the goalkeeper had caught the ball. But Paul has showed you shots there now, and as we talked before we came on air, the whole of the ball has to be over the line, and to me there, it didn't look as if it was. But as Paul said, I don't think that cost the Bridge. You had Neil Traynor there, you were looking at it again there. He stepped back a bit now with it. His feet's about 2 foot, maybe 18 inches, 2 foot over the line. But to me, I don't think the ball is, so it's one of these calls you make. I remember one time doing an umpire years ago at a match, I think it was up in Bourne. I tell you what, it was the only time I ever did it. The stick that you get, it's unreal. But as I say, they're all part of a team, Jarlath. But getting back to the game itself, this was a cracking game of football, no doubt about it. The Bridge played some of the best football I've seen in this year's championship. You have to take your hat off to them. And once again, our friend Charlie Smith is free taking what's out of this world. Neil Traynor took off 2 brilliant saves, as Paul said. Young Corey Quinn was man enough to stand up and take the pain. So you can't blame him. But I think at that time, if I'm right in saying, the Bridge were 3 points up. If you were a manager, you tell your player to pop it over the bar to get the insurance league. It's a tough call. But you have to remember there's 2 teams in this game. Clonduff played away, and as I say, the high ball in at the end, it was punched out. There was 4 Clonduff men running in on it, on Stephen McConville. We're looking at it again now, folks. You can see the goal line and you can see the goalkeeper. I don't think that falls over the line, Jarlath. Sure, you're going to give us your opinion on it, you know. We've watched it now 4 or 5 times, you know. But as they get back to the game, Clonduff did to the Bridge what Brainsford did to them the week previous. Basically, that's it. You know, it's just that's the way that game went. And you have to take your hat off to Clonduff. Many's our team would have dropped their heads, you know. But they stuck into the end, got that goal at the last, and as I say, they're in against St. Peter's wearing point in the quarter-final. So, as I say, I was impressed. First of all, I have to mention a few Bridge players there. Paul Lively had an excellent game. Kevin O'Rourke, Charlie Smith, and Corey Quinn. You know, so some great talent there. While for Clonduff, the other Paul Lively was brilliant. I was very impressed by Ross Carr and Tom Close in the middle of the park. Some great field and some great point taking. Tom Close scored two excellent points. And when you have the talent of Stephen McConville and Barry Hagan up front, you know, you're always going to get scores, like, you know. So Clonduff won it, but the Bridge will feel hard done by. But as Paul says, that umpteen chances apart from that goal there, which probably cost them the end, but they played some brilliant football. The possession stakes alone, you know, I would say they were well ahead in that. But you have to give Clonduff credit here, you know. As you said, Jarlath, Desi Candy told me they were his outside pick at the start of the year. I think they're yours as well, Jarlath. So our outside bet, Mayobridge had gone. I think Paul sort of fancied them as well, you know. But we'll talk about these games. But credit to both teams. It was a great contest. 16 points to 2-11. Some great long range scores. Very, very little of this tippy-toppy football, as I talk about, you know. Shooting from far, and once again, Charlie Smith's free taking. You know, a lot of players want to do with young Charlie Smith. Those young men that's, you know, 17, 18 years of age, start taking frees from the ground. Yeah.
And, you know, beautiful to watch that Charlie Smith putting down a ball to kick it dead off the ground. It's definitely a dying skill within the game. And it's one that a lot of young lads should nearly be looking at, because, you know, I think back of the 91 team, the Gary Masons and the Ross Carrs, and they're nearly they're like hen's teeth now, finding men that can do the same. So there's no doubt about it. It's not something. I mean, that's a skill that has to be worked on, and I would certainly love to see a lot more of that going on at underage games. Now, Patsy, we're going to have to go back to this controversy, because I know Paul Rooney's sitting on that hand grenade. There's 3 days. Right?
I'm not really.
Well, anyway,
well,
listen,
go ahead.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Right, last week, there was controversy last weekend as well, and we come on here, the 3 of us, and the 3 of us were in agreement that at the end of the day, referees are only human, right? And they have to go with, and the umpires are there to do a job. And I mean, like, you know, those guys, there's so much tension involved now, and there's so much at stake. The referee is nearly relying on the umpires to be an extra 2 pair of eyes in there. And I would have to say, you could look at that video 100 times. It's inconclusive, because we talk about the association football. I mean, like, it's really only soccer. It's really only since the VAR came in that you actually can see, you know, clearly what has happened on the goal line. And it's hard to believe that up until 2 or 3 years ago, when tens of millions of pounds were on the line in soccer matches, that it still was down till human observation as to whether something had or had not crossed the line, and technology didn't come into it. I will say this: the camera that Mr. Rooney, the aforementioned Mr. Rooney, was controlling. I mean, like, you know, that camera angle, Paul, with the best will in the world, was at it was at an angle. It wasn't in line with the goal line. So, you know, it doesn't. I suppose what I'm saying is,
it's all up,
there's nobody knows.
It's
There's
all
nobody
up
knows.
for debate, It's all up. It's all up for debate, Jarlath. That's why we're here tonight. We're debating it. You know what I mean? And my take on it, I was there. I was as close to it probably as maybe the umpire was. And you look at it again, as you said, and we all decided before the show, the ball has to be all completely over the lane, and the man has to be 100% sure that it's completely over the lane. And the umpire, in his wisdom, must have been sure that it was over the lane, because, as we all see, he was quick enough to put up the flag, and he seen something that maybe we all didn't see. It's all only in our opinion, Jarlath. And another thing out of that game, and Patsy mentioned there a while ago, football-wise in that game, the aforementioned man O'Rourke, he scored some of the best points that I ever seen in Park Esther during that game. And Corey Quinn made some wonderful space, and Steve McConville, and I mentioned Neil Trainer, and the three nephews playing there, Ross playing, Aidan got a black card, was involved in an incident towards the end too, and it's still, we all talk about referees and all, but it's inconsistencies, Jarlath, that get me, you know what I mean? And at the end there was an odd decision, sort of went against the Bridge too, and it's time on a free kick, we talk about it, and every referee has his own take on it, and time on a free kick. Well, what would you say, Jarlath? If you were refereeing and you were calling there now, I'll just ask you, what would your thinking be on a man allowance for time to pick a free kick?
Well,
you are now. What? Or is there a rule or what there?
No, it's all about discretion.
So it's the discretion then.
Yeah, it is.
And
yeah,
well, in your head, what would you think?
Well, you wouldn't want to be getting into a second minute. Put it that way.
Well, would you allow 10 or 15 seconds, or what would you allow?
I would have thought you'd be stretching it. You'd be stretching it if you were going beyond 30 seconds. 30 seconds should be more than enough.
Yeah, well, Patsy, what would your take be in that rule? Or?
Well, it's a hard one to call, Paul. These time things, we talked about it last week, these water breaks and what have you,
Time and all. It's strange.
There's that bit of pressure on referees. And Pat Spillane, before a ball was kicked in any championship, he said he felt for the poor referees. And he's right, we have an awful lot to contend with. And
I know they have, but I know it's a split-second season, but you could call that split-second decision at the end there. Well, he blew him too quick, or well, he didn't. I don't know. I'm not sure on it, but it led to the goal to put the Bridge out of the championship too. You know what I mean? So these critical age decisions that we're talking about, discussing now, is leaving teams, out of championships. That sort of way. Maybe it's 100% right. I'd love somebody to text us in with the official take on that. There, you see in the clock there. That there was near 65 minutes into the game there too, and it was a black card against Hilltown in favour of Mayobridge, and it ended up Mayobridge lost the game over. Do you know what I mean, Patsy? So the calls are vital. I just love somebody to tell me or to clarify what is the official ruling on it, or how long have you got there?
Mayobridge with the dead man's lead of 2 points do not want to allow Clonduff possession, because now
there you go,
Clonduff having to go for goal. It's all duck or no dinner. When you're in possession in this situation, you've got to keep it.
There's the whistle now. So you count what? Say 3, 4, 5 seconds he got. He got 5 seconds and he blew him. So it must be 5 seconds or something, Jarlath. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. Are you? Patsy, do you know?
No, I'm not sure how long you have before you take a free. We've seen different referees maybe at different takes on it. They usually have the ball if they spend too much time.
Now it does come down to Clonduff having
it's the wee things, and I'm sure Mayo, and I'll also add to that, and we're talking about it. I was talking to Kieran McKee, the manager, a few times during this championship, and I think he made of something. He made of something there, Jarlath. They have to learn. The thing they have to learn from all this championship, and everybody says there's no day they quit that you don't learn something. And I think the biggest lesson Mayobridge is going to have to learn from this is how to kill out a game, Jarlath. Because had they been able to kill out this game was over long before this incident. And even in the Glen game, they're a wee bit guilty of not killing out the game and letting them back into it. So, all in all, hopefully looking forward to stay together I think they've something coming. They've great free taker. They've a couple of great lads. They have a bit of talent there. They've a Rourke there floating. Have young Gallagher and taking nothing away from Hilltown. They kept plugging away. But I'd like to give Mayobridge a wee bit of credit as well, and hope to keep at it. And I hope Kieran stays there for another year, maybe to see where he can take them, because I had a feeling that Hilltown would have maybe run them out of this match right before it started. And they surprised me even that they went so well in it, and they sort of dominated that match and they ruled most of the game. So I found everybody's behalf, it's a game. We all go back to it. We'll all be back at it next weekend. Whether we win, whether we lose by a controversial goal, whether we lose by a decision, whether we win by a decision, we'll all be back. That's the GAA, and that's what we love about it, Jarlath. And I think I've spent enough time on that one now. You know what I mean? That's my take on it.
Yeah.
You're welcome to add to it or take from it if you want. Anybody's welcome to text in their comments. That's my opinion, Jarlath.
Listen, the bottom line is Clonduff are into the quarterfinal.
Maybe.
I'm expecting this phone now to start happening now, Jarlath. So
maybe Jarlath, this is Clonduff's year. We've talked about in the past, any team that has ever won a championship, they've had a little bit of luck along the way. Maybe that was Clonduff's luck. They probably thought at a whole lot of stages in that game they were out, But you have to give them credit. They stuck in there, and sometimes you get the rub of the green. A lot of the times you don't. So, Clonduff, as I say, will go in now against St. Peter's Warren Point. Confident enough. That's an odd game. We'll touch on later. It should be a cracker.
Okay, right. So that was Clonduff, of course, 2-11, Mayobridge 16 points. Then on the Sunday evening, Patsy, Kilcoo 1-11, Bourne 0-9. Now, I found that wee thing on Facebook that I was looking for, right? So, Mickey Cunningham says, Patsy Russ's commentary is absolutely phenomenal. Lee Ruddy, it's looking good. It has the distance. Has it got the accuracy? Oh, it's just short. Play the flame-haired lad. I think, now keep me right here, was that Charlie McGill you were talking about it in that instance? Because it definitely was a Kilcoo-Bourne game.
Yeah, that probably was maybe Danny, so it was,
There's Danny McGill, yeah, there's it there. Look.
Yeah. As I say, Jarlath, if people want to say it, I just do the game and get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and trying to put a wee bit of fun into it as well. And there was some serious stuff, but as I say, I've been doing it. I done my first match, Jarlath, it'll be 40 years next year, and that was only a bit of crack, the Bourne Savile replay. And as I say, I've been doing quite a lot of games since that. Get great enjoyment out of it. A lot of people enjoy the film and enjoy the commentating. So that's up to them. If they want to talk about it, that's fair enough.
Well, listen, getting Patsy going to the game itself. My own thoughts on that game was that Kilcoo never looked to be in danger, and they always looked to me, particularly in the second half, that they could up the gears at any time was required. Now, you're a Bourne clubman yourself. What was your take on what happened there on Sunday night? Well,
first of all, to me, it was an excellent advert for down football in the first instance, Jarlath. Two teams went out at hammer and tongs. Desi and me were commentating, and Desi couldn't believe, he was saying in commentary, the amount of space down the middle that was available was unreal. So basically that meant that both teams just ran down the channels, and as I say, the scores were some great long-range points. We have to talk here about the three Johnson brothers. Unbelievable. The tore holes in that Bourne defence, and young Sheelan Johnson, 19 years of age. I would love to have a speedometer in that man, the ground he covered in that game. And then, as I say, the goal. What about the goal? He made one of these runs, got a good ball into Dara O'Hanlon. Dara flicked it to Jerome. And I would say that ball was travelling 90 to 100 miles an hour when it hit the net. The keeper never seen it, and that set them on their way. But I have to remember there's two teams in this match, Jarlath, and some of the Bourne scores were excellent. Young Ryan Trainer, some great scores. They were in that game, and there's a couple of high balls that went in on top of the Kilcoo goalkeeper, and Bourne got a point out of one of them. One of them, the defenders managed to get away. So Bourne were really in that game. To half time, there was a couple of points in it. But in the second half, Kilcoo just took off. They put up the shutters, let's say, and I sort of felt a bit for Bourne. And then Kevin McKiernan having to go off. I don't know if he was injured or what. Maybe he was tired. And then they lost Jared McGovern to a black card. Seeing that 10-minute period, when you're down to 14, you're up against it. But for a long time, there's only 2 points in it in the second half, and Kilcoo just 2 or 3 points near the end. As I say, Darrell Brannigan, what a game he's had. I think I mentioned in commentary, I did an under-12 East Down final some years ago, and Darrell was playing, and in the first half alone, he hit the onion bag 5 times, John. So now he's a defender. I would love to know what would happen if that lad played in the forward line, because he's strong, he's full of running, never gives a bad pass. Kilcoo, you can see, we'll take this one out or we'll take that one out. They'll have somebody else to step up to the mantle. That's strong. Yeah. But like Paul agree with you, the form of the three Johnsons, Ryan kicked a couple of scores from 45, 50 yards out, and they're going to take a bit of stopping again, but I have to give Bourne credit. They're beat 5 points, but they didn't disgrace themselves. There's some good young players. You've Peter, Stephen Fagan, Ryan Trainer there. You have some lads for the future for Bourne. So they might feel down at the minute, but they'll be back again. As I said, we talked last week, the last 11 championships have been won by Kilcoo or Bourne. Kilcoo, I think, have won 8 and Bourne have won 3. So they're dominating down football, them two teams. Maybe they're the new kids in the block this year. Time will only tell that, Jarlath. But it was an honour to be on the mic for that game. Desi loved commentating on it too. But a bit of a scuffle at the end. As I say, these things do happen. These teams have played. I think they've played in 4 finals. Kilcoo have got the better of Bourne on 3 occasions, but Bourne pipped them when they were going for that elusive 7 in a row. So both of them still hold the record of 6 titles in a row. And as I say, John Trainer's record of 10 championship medals, that might be broke maybe some of these days very soon, but he still holds that record. And as I say, his son Ryan kicked a couple of great points. Paddy Rourke will be a bit down if you're right, Adams, but they put up a good fist of it, Jarlath. You can't take it away from them. And as I say, Kilcoo just that wee bit stronger, seen them over the line at the end.
Yeah. Paul, you were there yourself on Sunday night?
Yeah, I was there myself, Jarlath, and I have a slightly different take on it maybe than Patsy, and I'd have to give my opinion. And I thought the first half was as good a half of football in down football along many days. And I actually thought to myself, I was enjoying it that much, Jarlath. I thought to myself, have Bourne got this wee bit of steel back in them? We're used to Bourne teams, steel, take, strong edge off the edges, seat stuff. You know what I mean? And I was thinking to myself, maybe they have a bit of this to back in them again. But I tell you what, it turned to 10 in the second half, Jarlath. It was Kilcoo just steamrolled them in the second half. And I'm a Mayobridge man saying that, from a Bourne man's point of view, they'll all be wondering, they've super talent coming through, they've super this. But it's no good having that, Jarlath, if you're having that wee bit of, you remember Bourne teams, and I remember Bourne teams, and Patsy remembers them, and the steel and the grit and the determination that them men showed at times and dogged Ulster games and all, we all remember them. These boys is not showing that, Jarlath. They're going to have to look inside themselves, and I don't know what you need to do with them, but they fizzled out of this game badly, and I'm no Paddy Rourke will be disappointed, because when he had the Bourne jersey on him, I tell you what, they didn't fizzle out of games they got. And that's my take on it, Jarlath. And I'm on this show to be, to give it as I see it. And the Bourne men, I don't know what to think of that, but they fizzled out of this game very, very badly in the second half. A few of them now, I have to give credit to James McGovern and that, and a few of them tried their guts out, they tried their heart out, and to give it all, the wee number 10 as well, I forget who you call him. What do you call him, Patsy? Good wee footballer. Cathal Foy give plenty, and but at the end of it all, Jarlath, my view on it and my take on it is they haven't got that toughness that's required to be able to put it up to these Kilcoos. Kilcoo chewed them up the second half, they fizzled out badly. They will be disappointed. Hopefully they regroup, and take a look at themselves and see can they develop some, because they're going to have to get this Kilcoo thing out of their system sometime, and they didn't show much signs of it on it, Jarlath. I'll leave it at that, so I will.
Fair enough. One of the things that I have noticed in this curtailed season is the amount of teams that come flying out of the traps. You nearly say the game is now split into 4 quarters. And Bourne fell into that category the other night. I thought Ryan Trainer in particular in the first quarter was exceptional and was hitting he had 2 or 3 beautiful points from well out the field too. But is that maybe just something like is anybody else seeing that where sometimes the water break is actually breaking the momentum of a team?
I would agree 100% with you there, Jarlath. And I think sooner rather than later, the GAA is going to have to do away with this water break. I don't understand why it was took in. I think maybe it was took in with the fact that players hadn't got that many games behind them. Their fitness mightn't have been that good, and that's why they had to maybe get water on board. I don't honestly know.
No, Patsy, it's tucked in because they all have to drink out of their own bottle. Used to be you could have fired a bottle around the field. Now they all have to have their own bottle, so they need a minute to get that sorted out. That's probably the gist of it.
But a lot of players, I've been talking to a few players, not mentioning them here and there, but they absolutely detest this water break. And as you said, Charlotte, they say it breaks up the whole momentum, and basically I'm led to believe players are only supposed to take a drink of the water and get back out at it. We've seen here a few controversial referees getting the game on where players weren't back down the field and the ball ended in the back of the net. So I'd love to know, Jarlath, I asked this question last week and nobody has yet told the answer. What is the time for a water break? Are coaches allowed to talk to their players? There's an almond for you. We'll fire that out to the public. Are coaches allowed to talk to their players during this water break? Or is a water break only meant, as you say, get a slug of water out of their own bottle and get back at it?
Well, I was told, I was told, or I read somewhere, but either or, it was officially, there was 1 minute allocated to the water break. Now, I know that's a bit of a stretch to say that a goalkeeper could run 60 or 70 yards, get a drink of water and get back in position within 60 seconds. But I'll tell you this here, this is an aside. I was at a game last night, and I'll not get anybody in trouble by mentioning it, but there was no water break. I was at a Gaelic game last night in this county, and there was no water break. So I've also seen them. I've also seen the water breaks I've seen the water breaks called at 14 minutes on the clock, and I've seen water breaks called at 17 minutes on the clock. So I'm assuming it's down to the closest to a dead ball situation, isn't it? To call it.
Seems to be, yeah. Seems to be, yeah.
That's another one of them things. It's probably going to be talking points because it does give. It certainly does give managers a chance to sort of form a bit of a semi huddle and issue directions and whatever the case may be. Now it has one of the things that has, of course, improved is there's a lot of teams there, and a lot of times you'll see the mere foreigner running on constantly, and they nearly were spending as much time on the pitches at some games as some of the players were. So I suppose that's one of the good things. It's done away with all that,
Yeah.
Right, listen, we'll move on, will we?
Yeah.
So, Clonduff and Downpatrick. I suppose the only thing...
Clonduff and Longstone, Jarlath.
Yes, but Clonduff and Downpatrick, we can't gloss over that.
Yeah.
That's still in play. Now, I'm only going with, I don't know why you have heard any different. I'm just going on what I've read in the papers. Now, Downpatrick are saying that they're not going to let this rest, but without getting into the specifics, just to recap, it is my understanding that I believe initially there was somebody passed away in Clonduff, and that was the initial postponement. Then somebody also passed away in Downpatrick within the 72-hour period, and then there was the COVID situation. Now, that's all we're going to see in that, right? But anyway, that then my understanding is that then became the Public Health Agency timeline, which was the basis of Downpatrick's defence for not being able to play the game. Anyway, the upshot of it all is Kerry Duff were put through to play Longstone last night, and they beat them by 4 points. Patsy, 310 to 112. Were you on that one? It was televised, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't doing it, Jarlath, but I watched it here at home, and it was a game of two halves. Longstone dominated the first half, and some great point taken from a young lad called Conor Doran. Kerry Duff got a scrappy goal to pull them back into it. Michael Aaron, he scored from the pen, so they were 1-8 to 1-4 up at half time. But as I say, DJ Morgan sprung a young lad, Larkin Toll, from the bench, and he was given the task of marking one of Longstone's danger men, Conor Doran, and it certainly worked. But I think what beat Longstone, Kerry Duff, as I say, their average age here, Jarlath, I think they're the youngest team in this county, is 22, 23 years of age. So they have a lot of youth. We talked last week, they've won 3 under-21 or under-20 titles this last 3 years and down. So all that team come together, you know, they mightn't have that much experience, let's say, but they're learning at the cold face. Longstone have some great players. We can't leave that out. You know, Emmett talked to us a couple of weeks ago about these young lads, and I've seen 3 or 4 of them last night. You know, young Matthew Cunningham, Finn McElroy, Gareth McDowell put in a great shift. You know what I mean? You have the Polands there. As I say, you know, Longstone, they've nothing to be ashamed of. They're a good traditional club. They got to the final in 07, as Paul will tell you. They could have won it the first day there, but that's by the by, as I say. And this their 75th anniversary, Jarlath. You know, we've talked about other establishments not being able to have their celebrations. Hopefully, maybe next year Longstone will be able to do that. But they took Brenton Coulter in there, and you know, he had them flying in that first half. They played some lovely football, some direct football. They carried up, just wore them down, Jarlath, and you know, they're going to come up now against Mr. Poacher's team, so that'll be a real battle of wits there. DJ Morgan against Stephen Poacher, you know. So DJ has been involved with down development squads over the years. So he used to be he played for the Connaught in his time, and he's a good shrewd judge, you know. And him and Patrick Doherty, that's a nephew of the great Paddy Doherty, are at the helm there in Kerryduff. And credit to them, you know. I think a lot of people probably maybe were fancying Longstone to win that game, you know, because Longstone have great championship tradition in Down. You know, they've got to a few finals in the past, and credit to Kerryduff. But as I say, Longstone will be back. Emmett Hocking talked about the youth they have, and I seen some of it last night. Paul, I think you were at the game, yeah. Paul, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was at the game, yeah, he was at the game, Patsy, and you're right, it was a game of two halves, and young Dorn was phenomenal in the first half, was honest to God. And we done an interview at half time, Patsy, and Shauna asked him on, she says, what do you do if they put 2 and Conor Dorn in the second half? And your man says, oh, we'll have such and such and such and such, you know, and this one and that one to cover that. But there's nobody to cover, Patsy. And that's what Kerry Duff done exactly what they said. Larkin Toll was brought on. Great player, Patsy. 18 years of age, I think. Brilliant player. That Beatty and Daniel Guinness was phenomenal for them. And let me tell you, the first half, Longstone were coasting. The manager, we done an interview at half time, and the man was dead sure that they were going to roll on up and win it. You know, we felt that ourselves, Patsy, but Kerry Duff had a different story. They did get a cheeky goal in the first half. I think it was John Kelly. Is that what they call him, Patsy? I think John Kelly scored it. It was him and Ambrose in the tussle, but let me tell you, Kerry Duff could have got a few more goals in the second half. And there's a couple of serious blocks later on to stop goals, Patsy. And let me tell you, see, the town teams, as we talked about before, and I talk about town teams, see when they get the tails up, Patsy, and they get going, they'll rattle you, and they run, and they broke everything Longstone through it in the second half, and they deserved run-out winners, I'll tell you that. And the scoreline, 310 to 112, I suppose a fair enough reflection on it, but Kerry Duff missed a couple of goals as well, Patsy, and Longstone, They've nothing to be ashamed of. They were brilliant in the first half. But young Doherty and DJ Morgan pulled the rabbit out of the bag at half time, and they put an end to Conor Dorn's influence on the game. And it was a big move, Patsy. And me as a, looking on and say, you love to see stuff like that going on. Like, they can see what's going on and they know what's going on. They know how to deal with it. And I'm sure that the crowd buzz came down the road last night after pulling that one off, Patsy. And fair play to them. They're into the next round. Nobody will want them. If they get their tails up again, anybody, they're in trouble. They'll run all day. And I tell you what, there's a couple of big fellas in the mix too.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, it goes out saying that Kerry Duff, Patsy, you touched on it there, underage success. It seems to be because it had been, certainly was one of the things that I was intrigued at over the years, that phenomenal membership, a lot of good underage teams, but they seem to fade. And they nearly seem to have got on top of that now, where they're able to keep the lads together and hold it together going into to senior level. And Breeda's not too far behind them. And I'll tell you, there'll be a force to be reckoned with those two Belfast teams, I would suggest, over the next decade. Listen, we're going to push on because we're 45 minutes in here and we've still only covered 4 games. But just to let you know, I don't know why he's noticed the bottom of the screen. Neil Cousins has broke cover. There you are. Look. Neil Cousins has broke cover.
I've seen that.
In relation to the water break. So it's obviously at the discretion of the referee, and the two teams had
agreed. Neil, for clarifying that. Maybe Neil clarified us now about the time on the free kicks. If you would just send that one in, we'd be happy enough, Neil, if you could send that in to us there.
Well, see, I can't tell by that message whether we've annoyed him or not, but we'll soon find out.
No, we'll never. Anyway, you'd never annoy Neil. You would never annoy Neil. No, you wouldn't.
We're going to push on because we still have to go through the intermediate, and then we do a preview of what's coming up this weekend. Now, big result, Patsy, on Saturday in the intermediate championship. You called it. Dromora 11 points, St John's 10 points.
Yeah, apparently this was a cracking match. Score for score, two teams that had met in the first round. We talked about how everybody thought St John's would have hammered Dromora out the gate the first round, Jarlath, but that wasn't the case. There was only 3 points in it that day. And as I say, Dromora stuck with them the whole way. There were a couple of points down midway through the second half, but Luke Savage again kicked 8 points. And there was a young lad there. There's a lot of talk about this lad, Owen McAvoy. Remember that name, Jarlath, Owen McAvoy. There's some great players. We talked about Brent McKay last week, and then they've experienced hands like Colin Kelly, Connor Burns, Brent McNeil. The Johnnies tried hard. Young Andrew and Connor Gilmore, two lads you're gonna hear a lot of in the future. They've experienced players like Marty Keenan, John Clark there, and I suppose a bit of a dampener for St John's after that. Marty Clark, who I think is their coach, stroke manager. Marty has stepped down. He was 3 years with them, but a lot of people were tipping St John's at the start of the season to win this. A few pundits that would know a bit about the game were tipping them to win this at the mid-championship. But you have to take your hat off to Dromora. As I said, a small club. They wouldn't have a big picture on it, As I say, I get on well with the Dromora guys, and a couple of them actually texted me last week. Keep tipping us, they said, so first little and
listen, I'll tell you this here. I happened to bump into the manager, Gary Farrell, on Sunday night, and Gary says to me, he says that Russell, he says, Patsy Russell, he says he's amazing. He says he knows more about that team, he says, than I do, and I'm managing them. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you have that discussion with Gary yourself, because with Gary on the line. Gary, a great win at the weekend. Congratulations to you.
Thanks very much, Jarlath, and it's lovely to be asked onto the show. Thanks again. Yes, but it was a marvellous win. Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, you said to me, Gary, on Sunday night, I was nearly going to ask Patsy Russell to join me on the sideline. So, Patsy, take her away there. Gary, you're going to listen to Patsy here.
Good man, Gary. First of all, congratulations to you. What did you learn from the first game, Gary? You lost the 3 points that day, but you put in a great shift. A lot of people were fancying the St. John's to give you a real turnover. But in that game there, I believe it was very close scoring. And at the end, the celebrations after, I think maybe it's the first time in many, many years that Dromara have defeated St. John's. And fair play to you, you are there, you're in the next round, and a lot of teams will be taking notice of you.
Yeah, well, Patsy, going back to the first game, obviously, with us coming in as a 4th division club into the Intermediate Championship, it's only natural, I think, for a lot of Gaelic experts around the county to think that it was a matter of St. John's just turning up, and turning us over on that particular day. But what this group of players have shown to me over the past number of weeks, since we've come back from the whole COVID episode, is that they're an honest bunch of guys, Patsy, and they're willing to learn and they're willing to work, So whenever you've got that there work ethic and whenever you've got the honesty factor, it goes a long way, I think, in my book. So, yes, we were the underdogs, there's no doubt about that. But I think in the first game they showed a bit of mettle, and they showed St. John's and a lot of the county that, maybe we're just out there to make up the numbers as such.
Yeah, I had seen the minor teams, Dromara Minors, I think it's about 18 months now. He's played Saul in the East Down minor final. It was a cracking match. Saul ended up winning the game by 2 points. We've seen how well Saul have advanced, Gary, and we see how well this Dromara team is coming on. So you would have to say, if you can get a good bunch of minors together, keep them together, it'll pay dividends eventually, Gary.
Well, that's exactly right. And the underage structure here in Dromara, they've been working on it with the likes of Anthony McNeil and John McKay and these boys for years now. And I had actually been with Dromara maybe 6 years ago, and I could see a young Luke Savage and I could see a young Pat Joe Drake and these boys playing under 14 and under 16 level and competing very well against some bigger clubs as such. And you sort of were saying you hope and pray that these guys will eventually make it through, as you said, at their minor side, and then make the other step up to senior football. And thankfully they have, Patsy, because there's some really good young lads in the squad that we have at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'll pass you over now to Paul Rooney, a man who
Gary.
well read Gaelic football and down.
Thank you. Well,
how are you doing, Gary? I had a spy in the pub myself a Sunday night. You were heard to shout, "Don by Rooney doesn't know nothing about tipping." Would that be right? No.
Well, I listened to your show last week, Paul, and Patsy had a wee bit of inside knowledge. I don't know, I heard him mentioning a few boys' names, and I did say to Jarlath, he'd be a good man to get in because he seemed to know a lot of boys around the Dromara setup here, and I think Jarlath said it with him in the what he thought the result would be, but you went the other road, So
fair play to you, Gary. You're going well. You're going well down there, and you'll be looking forward to Clonduff the next round, will you? You'll be going in there with no holds barred, and you'll be going for the throat, I suppose, as usual, will you?
Well, Paul, rightly, like at the end of the day, we're still a 4th division team and we're up against a 2nd division team, and be under no illusions. We know we're going in there as the underdog. Anna Clone are a seasoned team. They've a lot of very good footballers on their setup. With the two McCartles, they've got experience in Collie Farrell and Kevy Anderson there as well. These boys have been about the block, and these boys have played in big games in the past. So the experience factor that they'll bring into the game, a lot of our boys won't have that. And with John Hockey and the management set up there now, they're going to be a formidable opponent, to put it like that. And the only thing that probably we have on our side is that there'll be very little pressure on us, and at training the boys seem to be enjoying it. And it's a stage of the championship where probably, let's be honest, we didn't think we would be in, and we're just taking every week as it coming now, Paul, and we're enjoying every minute of it.
Thanks very much for coming on, Gary, and we'll wish you well in Leitrim on Friday night at 7:30. And you'll be delighted to know that I'm going to keep up the same tipping regime, and maybe you'll tip on through to the next round. So no offence, Gary, but I don't want to upset the apple cart now and start tipping against you or for you. Do you know what I mean? After all this length of time, the best of luck, Gary. Thanks for coming on.
I'll tell you, Gary. Rooney done everything there except get on his hands and knees, so I wouldn't listen to that out of crap at all. Here, listen, Gary, you've joined us there from you're obviously at training there this evening, so we're very grateful. Very grateful that you took the call, and as Paul says, the very best wishes for Friday night, Gary. Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Well, thanks very much for inviting me on the show, Jarlath, and good luck with everything else for the year ahead. All right.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you.
All right, lads. We'll push on there. Clonduff versus Tullalish. 115 to 2-8. Now, Paul, I'm going to go to you on that one because Patsy, for some reason, tipped Tullalish. So you went with Clonduff on that one, Paul.
And you were right because I've seen signs of something coming about Clonduff. You know what I mean? And I've been talking to I have a good friend in Clonduff, a couple of good friends down there, and by all accounts, Tullalish would have been probably Slate favourites in this one, Jarlath. You know what I mean? But Clonduff had a young lad there, Kieran Maguire. He knocked over 10 points in that game, so he did. And they have Niall Scullion and Daniel Devlin back. And like in the earlier rounds, these boys weren't available in Clonduff, Jarlath, and they're back now. And I think there's an alibi Patsy's telling about, men to watch out for. There's now a young man there, Kieran Maguire. He stuck over 10 points again in Tullalish. And by all accounts, they were easy winners in this game. And they're going on now to the next round. They're going to be facing up to, it'll be heavy enough ask of them. But I tell you what, their heels are up. And I keep talking about these town teams, Jarlath. I call them, and maybe it's wrong of me to call them that, but they're teams out of towns. And see, when a town team gets its tail up, I'm telling you, they will not be stopped. And you've got to keep, you've got to give them credit. And it's a good win for them in Tullalish. It was a real local derby. And I'm sure all sorts of hand tactics would be going on in the field of battle. And fair play to Clonduff, and I wish them luck in the next round, Jarlath.
Okay, Patsy, anything to add to that game?
Well, believe it or not, Jarlath, Tullalish were actually ahead in that game. To about 20 minutes in, they got an early goal from Rhys McInerney there. But as Paul says, that young man, Maguire, his kicking was exemplary, And we've touched on it many, many times in this show. If you have a good man that can hit frees and mix it up with a few points in play, you're in with a shout. I think Tullalish got a late goal that got a wee bit of respectability on the scoreboard. But I did call that one wrong. But having said that, Jarlath, I think I predicted 6 out of the 7, so it's not bad tipping.
Well, there's 3 rounds to go yet. You know what I mean? So don't we get getting too carried away. Listen, we'll park that one and we'll move on. Paul, the Shamrocks juggernaut rolls on. 210 against Savills 110. Your second favourite team, and I'm sure you have plenty to tell us about it.
And I have plenty to say about it. And what I'm going to say about it is, that was, I left Park Esler on Sunday after the Bridge match, and I had some face on my Jarlath now. And I have to admit that, I actually thought they won the game, and I'm not going over it again. But about an hour later, you get that news there. You know what I mean? And I tipped it on the show last week, and I said it on the show earlier on. The two Martys and young Murphy there, Calvin Murphy there. That's the teams who want to be playing. They played Savile early on in the league, and they beat them by 8 or 9 points. And the talk of the day was, every fan and every GA man and every man that goes to a match, and know what I'm saying now, we're heading their best team out. There's a lot of boys away, and there's a lot of boys here, and there's a lot of boys there. But they had their best team out on Sunday, and they had no answers for Shamrocks, really and truly. My take on it was the Shamrocks were good winners in that game. They maybe hadn't a Pat Havens on their marquee forwards, and they had them on Sunday, Jarlath. And the Shamrocks were still able to take them. And one thing I'll remark about the Shamrocks, right, and it's something different that I say about them that I've never seen before, right? They seem to have something, Marty can look around the bench, and there's 3 or 4 lads there, or maybe half a dozen lads there that could walk on to most teams, you know what I mean? And he has great competition for places going on there. There's a serious amount of lads turning out. Them 2 Goffs, Connell and Connell, I was talking to 2 of them, coming out after the game, and humble big lads, but they're playing a big part there, Jarlath, and they're a great addition back into the squad. And if young Michael McKay there, we're talking about players and down teams, this lad is brilliant, Jarlath. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying. They have a young lad, McCusker, playing out of half-back. He sometimes reminds me, he's a Cleggy type of a Cleggy type. He reminds you of Damien Rafferty at times. You know, the way he can hang on to a man. Players we never hear of, but we're hearing them on this show here, and I'd be glad to give them a shout out. Like John McAteer's back. He's back after long injuries, John. Settled in well and held his place and going well. And he loved reporting on that. Another young lad, Tiernan, I think Tiernan Borden, they call him, a super player. Huh? You have young, what do they call me from the down squad now? Young Gorman Cahill is turning into a superb player. Tell you what, there's plenty of options going forward, Jarlath. They have a tough next round. They'll be relishing the fact of it, and I wish them luck.
All right. Listen, Patsy, we'll move on to the next game, right? Which is unraked on Ballymartin. But just before we do, Neil Cousins, right? So what's this Neil saying? There's no set time and rule like the new mark rule, which is 15 seconds. It's up to the referee's discretion. Now, I'm assuming what he's talking about there is the free kick once the ref blows the whistle to start the play again. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about in that instance. But Neil, could you also clarify for us the water break? Is there a determined time allocated to the water break? You saying you want to add there before, because Neil is mad keen to answer any queries we have.
We thought that, Jarlath, anyway, by the looks of it, it is up to the referee's discretion. But I felt maybe he could have given a wee bit more discretion to young O'Rourke, on the sideline there all night. That's all I'd say.
Right, okay. All right, so moving on then. On Monday night past, Patsy, it was on Rake 2-16, Ballymartin 0-11. So a 10-point win.
Yeah, there was only going to be one winner here, no disrespect to the Ballymartin men. You have to remember, Jarlath, Ballymartin have lost a lot of players to work overseas or injuries. They're rebuilding again. I think they've Paul Duffin in there at the helm. So, as I said, I seen Kingdom in one of the earlier rounds, and they're certainly impressed. And they got off their great start. Rory Cunningham hitting the net in the 6th minute, and we talked about the three Ronans. Ronan Campbell, he got the second goal. Great free taker. Ronan McAlinton. You have Declan Doyle, which Paul talked about last week. Definitely a future down footballer. This lad has to get a run out in Paddy Tally's team. He's amazing. He's strong. He's a great ball winner. He doesn't lose possession easily. I can't sing this lad's praise enough. That's Declan Doyle. Paul talked to him last week, but Paul was actually making him a bit older than what he was. He's been around from under 12 for the Kingdom, and he's certainly a great prospect, this Declan Doyle. But as I said, Jarlath, they ran out comfortable winners at the end, 2-16, 2-11. We talked away at the start of your programme, before the championship commenced, about Shamrocks. There's going to be a cracking match we'll talk about later. Leitrim against the Kingdom. The two teams in green and gold. It's going to be a real battle of attrition, that one, on two good footballing sides. That's what we like to see in this county. Football when played at its best. And I think, Jarlath, I have to say this, there's a lot of teams now are going back to open football. We've noticed it when we're commentating. I'm sure Paul and camera there and tell you, a lot of this fisty type pass and tippy-toppy stuff, which I call it, has been put out of the game. And thank God it is, because it's pretty boring to watch. We talked about Kilcoolborn earlier. They went for it. They played attractive football last Sunday night, and credit to them all, and credit to all these coaches now. There's a lot more, direct football coming into our game, which is great to see. It's great to see for the people at home who can't get to these games. They can watch them at home. It's great to see open football, and as you say, there's quarter-final ties and all three grades to come this weekend. So we could be in for another really treat this weekend, John.
Yes, there's definitely not as much of the defensive stuff, Patsy, and as you say, from a spectator point of view, that open attacking type play is what the punters want to see, whether they're in the stand or sitting on their couch watching it. Listen, will you write in till the fixtures for this weekend? Paul, first up, quarter-final, Ballyholland versus Loughin Island. What way do you see that going?
That's in Castlewell in the Southleigh, Jarlath, at 4 o'clock, that one. I tell you what, it'll be a good game of football, and I'm expecting high score to fare there. Do you know that? Ballyholland, we've talked about them, we touched them on in the league show. We mentioned they were going well, Jarlath. They were flying through the war. They're actually flying, and they run into a couple of wee hurdles in the league here and there, and they've sort of steadied the ship again. And I said last year, they took out Mayobridge and down Bourne one night in the quarter-final, and they let themselves down the semi-final, and they're sitting there in the quarter-final again, hoping to go forward. But Loughnane, full of football, we mentioned earlier on, oozing with footballers all over the field, two great football teams, and I suppose I'm going to have to call this one, Jarlath. I'm going to have to shout for somebody, and
yeah,
I'll call this one, and my call, I'm going to call Ballyhole in this one, Jarlath, to tip it slightly with maybe a wee bit meta youth in the squad.
Right. Okay. Well, Patsy, before I bring you in on that one, there's one sort of general observation I want you to touch on, right? Who has the advantage now going into quarter-final? Is it the team that played last weekend, or is it the team that were resting up last weekend because they had already qualified?
That's a good question, Jarlath. They say there's nothing like competitive games. So I would say, it's a toss of the coin with that question, because the team that keeps playing, that more match practice, where the team has got rest and stuff, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. Fair enough, the teams that got through to the quarterfinals last week without having to play the week past there, it might be an advantage to them. But as you know, Jarlath, championship football is all on the day. Little things, small things need to happen on the day, and if they go right for you, anything can happen. Any team can beat any other team on any given day. That's just the bottom line.
Fair enough. Right, Patsy, call that one. Ballyhole, Loughnane.
Well, I haven't seen Ballyhole here, Jarlath. I've seen Loughnane against Breda last week, and I've seen enough in them to believe that they can beat this Ballyhole team. There won't be a lot in it, as Paul says, that the Ballyhole men are Shimmy Loughnane there, who can score 8 or 9 points. So it's very important that the Loughnane defenders don't give away frees. That's the one thing that Jody Gormley will be telling them. If you give away a free within 40 or 50 yards, Shimmy Loughnane will punish you. They've also Tiernan Rush there, a class forward as well. So, but I've seen enough in the two McClements as you get down there at the back of that defence. He'll keep the thing going in defence. Two strong midfielders, Johnny Flynn, who plays for the county, and young Gavin O'Toole. And the Paddy McKenny is a good target man up on the forward line. So, as I say, I was involved with Loughnane for 27 years, and I think it would be a miss of me not to tip them. It's going to be close. But I'm going to say Loughnane by 2 points, Jarlath. Right down.
Okay, well, listen, I'm inclined to go with Loughnane myself, based purely on the fact that they posted 19 scores last weekend, and that is no mean feat in championship football. Moving on, then, Cuckoo versus my own club, Verstraver, right? So I'll come straight to the point on this one. Verstraver's going to beat Cuckoo, boys. Telling you that now, right? Because
I'd love to see it, and everybody would love to see it within the county, and it would be a major turn up for the book. And fair play to you for having that and holding that thought. And hopefully every Verstraver man's thinking the same way, Jarlath, at this minute in time. I hope they are. But I'm going to give my bit of a valued or unvalued opinion on it. And I do believe you, and I do believe that Verstraver can stay with this Kilcoo team for 40, 50 minutes, Jarlath. And I do believe that. And I do believe they've enough attack and flair coming off the break ball, maybe, to get scores, and to take scores. And the one thing they will have to make sure, if an opportunity arises, they're going to have to take it, because they're going to get no second chances. I have a feel they'll stay with Kilcoo for 40, 50 minutes, and Kilcoo will turn on the knuckle duster and grind them out of it. The last. I think an experience, like, I know Verstraver intermediate champions a couple of years ago. They won it easy, won it handy, and they're you're used to playing big finals, Charles. Yourselves have been in the finals, and they've been there and they've done that. And it's a major ask of a young team coming through the ranks to face up to this seasoned Kilcoo team, and they're going to have to, Charles. They're going to have to lean towards Kilcoo in this one and tip Kilcoo to take us after 40, 50 minutes of a good slog of a match.
Well, Paul, that's fair enough. And Patsy, I'm going to let you in a wee second, but I just have to tell you this, right? I do not wish to be patronising against my own club, but I can tell you now, I believe in my heart that Verstraver on their day will compete and go toe-to-toe with any club in this county. And Patsy touched on it earlier. For things to go right for you in any given year, you need that wee bit of luck. And, you know, sometimes that can be the difference in a ball going 6 inches either side of a post. And when we look back at that last Breda match, I mean, Rostrevor could have been 10 points up at half time in that game. If the chances that they generated actually transpired onto the scoreboard. So someday that the things will fall into place. Kilcoo
I'm enjoying listening to you, Jarlath. I'm enjoying listening to you. Yeah, it's great.
Kilcoo will certainly not send the shiver down the spine of Rostrevor, because we were there 12 months ago, and it didn't go away the way a lot of the pundits expected it to go. It ended up a very narrow win for Kilcoo. So there you are. I've got that off my chest, Patsy. I'm sticking with Rostrevor. I'm going with Rostrevor, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, Jarlath, seen Rostrevor against Breda on comedy that night, and I was very impressed. I'll tell you what I was impressed with. I was impressed with their defence. Now, in any game, you need a good defence. There's no doubt about it. Young Tomas Gordon, he was given the task of Mark and Breda, one of Breda's best players, Don Hughes, and he'd done an excellent job there. Then you have Owen Murdoch and Jarlath Bard, who make these runs up the wings. You know, good defensive players, played a lot before. But we go back to this Kilcoo team. You know, we've seen I talked earlier in the programme about the three Johnsons were in song. Darrell Brannigan out of this world, the big Paul Green back in the middle of the field. And then to top all that, they sprung Darrell O'Hanlon from the bench. Very few people would have knew that Darrell was going to come on. So going back to Bourne there just briefly, Bourne wouldn't have been, you know, wrecked, and Jared McGovern would have probably think he's taken up Ryan Johnson, but all that changed. But, you know, we're talking about young Sheelan Johnson. If Rostrevor have any chance, they're going to have to stop the supply of ball getting to this man. But if you try and take one man out of it, somebody else from Kilcoo will step up to the mantle. They have a lot of play makers. They have a lot of guys that can take scores. You're right in what you say. Last year, Rostrevor was only 3 points in it, Jarlath, and they stuck with Kilcoo toe-to-toe the whole way. You know, Pete McGrath's an experienced manager, and he'll have his homework done on that Kilcoo team. But whether or not it will be enough to deny Kilcoo, you know, as I said, you asked me who would win the championship at the start of the year. I said Kilcoo. I said Mayobridge with the outsiders, with my outside tip. I told you Warren Point would beat Kilcoo when they met, but I still said Kilcoo would win the championship. And I'm still going to stick with that, Jarlath. What I've seen last Sunday night, you know, Rostrevor will run them close. But we'll go back to what we touched on earlier there. On any given day, any team can beat any other team. So Kilcoo could have a bad night at the office. There's no doubt about that. You know, Rostrevor's young. That young fella, Arthur McMahon. We talked about him. You have Conor Doyle up front, and you have the evergreen Sean Parr. You know what I mean? A real captain, fantastic. You know, a young man that can take scores. You can hit a penalty, you know what I mean? But one thing I noticed, Kilcoo don't like the high ball, Jarlath. The high ball in top of the goalkeeper, that could pay dividends for them. You know, so there's not going to be much in it. They definitely won't be, Kilcoo, if they do win the game, they'll definitely not hammer Rostrevor. So I'm predicting Kilcoo probably by 3 or 4 points, Jarlath.
Okay, Patsy, right. We'll push on, Paul. A mouth-watering one on Sunday night then is CPN versus Clonduff.
I'm looking forward to it, Jarlath. And, you know, it's going to be another one of them games where CPN are going to be heavy favourites. And this is another question for their progression in their steps forward, and, you know, their progression as a club. Can they handle the big favourites tag? They're going to be favourites can only get Hilltown. It's a long time, Jarlath, from one point where favourites can end a championship match against Clonduff. Long time, and we all know that. We're all been about the place a long time, but they're going to carry the favourites tag. It's going to be a different type of game than the Kilcoo battle of attrition. Clonduff will be disappointed with their second half showing against Bryansford, and I don't think they'll be overly exuberant about their performance against Mayobridge. I still think there's plenty of football in them. We talk about Steve McConville, we talk about the forwards, we talk about, you know, the 3 cars they have. I tell you what, if they click into gear, CPN could be caught in the happen. I'm going to do the needful, Jarlath, because I think it needs to be done, because I know regularly you both users going to tip CPN. I'm going to go with my nephews, and I'm going to stick Clonduff in the front in this one here.
Okay, Patsy, take her away.
Yeah, well, as we said, Clonduff the most ardent Clonduff supporter will probably tell you they were lucky enough to get over the line. But as we've talked many times, it takes that little bit of luck. It's 20 years since Clonduff lifted the Frank O'Hare Cup and they beat the Fontenoys that day in Newry. But, you know, they're in my shout here, Jarlath. I've seen them twice now, and they played some great football against Brentford to lose the game in the opening round. They didn't play that well against the Bridge, but we've talked that quite a bit tonight and how they won that game. They stuck with it to the end. But I've seen Warrenpoint and they beat, in my opinion, the two best teams in this county this year so far, Kilcoo and St Mary's Bourne. And if this is going to be, if Warrenpoint's going to win the championship, this is the year. And I have to go with a point, man. I was talking just before we got that. I was talking to a man during the week, a former Warrenpoint player, and he says he doesn't like Warrenpoint being called CPN. He says it's St Peter's Warrenpoint. Cumin Patter Nefer is actually St Peter's GAA club in Irish, so it is. But they don't like being called CPN, Jarlath.
Well, sir, it'll not be long maybe to our listening in the stands. CPN. If that was a game on TG4 and you'd CPN versus UTM, it would further confuse the people down the country. One man we had on a few weeks ago who gave us a great overview of what was happening in the point camp was Conor McGarry, and we're lucky enough to have Conor back on the line. How are you, Conor?
How you doing, Jarlath? How's things?
Not too bad. Another big weekend coming up for you here, right? So I don't know whether you had heard or not, but Rooney has gone with his nephews over in Hilltown. But you're safe enough with myself and Patsy, I think. I would agree with Patsy and Conor. I'm going to let you in there in a couple of seconds. It would be a travesty for St Peter's, CPN, Warrenpoint, call them what you will, that in any given year that they would beat both Kilcoo and Bourne, that they didn't end up taking the Frank O'Hare Cup home. And I'm sure that you would agree with those sentiments, Conor.
Yeah, well, look, we're in the place where we wanted to be 6 weeks ago, and we wanted to aim and get over our two games where we're lucky to beat the two teams that we're playing. At the minute, we're looking no further than Clonduff, and our minds are firmly set on getting into a championship semi-final.
Okay. Patsy, take her away there,
Conor.
How you going, Patsy?
Yes, Conor, it's Paul here. Paul here, it is Conor on there. And Jarlath told you have, just before you come on there, the booby trapped me and they got me to tip somebody, you know what I mean? But I had a tip Clonduff. But I tell you what, you're going in this heavy favourites in this one. And I was saying to the boys, it's a long time for we should win into a championship match with a favourite tags against Clonduff. Would I be right in saying that, Conor?
Well, just repeat that there again, Paul.
It's a long time from you should win in to play Clonduff in a championship as red hot favourites. Would I be right in saying that?
Well, we've played them in this last two seasons. I wouldn't be certainly saying that we're red hot favourites. Clonduff are coming off the back of two good performances, and they've racked up a massive score. They've a team littered with county footballers. The three Kiars of the O'Hagans and the McConvilles. They have a lot of new exciting players, young Clancy and Ryan Brannigan, Tom Close. They have a lot on the Brent and Britain back after suspension, to help sturdy them at the back. So, look, I wouldn't be certainly saying that we're the favourites at the minute. Look, we're the sort of the form team at the minute, but we're not blowing teams out of the water.
Yeah, you've been looking forward to it. Maybe Patsy something for you, Conor.
Yeah, Conor, you must have been. First of all, you must have been very pleased with the result against the Owen Road Kilcoo men. That was a real exciting game, score for score the whole way through. But I was very impressed with your defence that night, and especially Patrick Murdoch in the full back where they came up the field to score two excellent points in that game, Conor.
Yeah, Patrick had a brilliant game. We work a lot on our defence when we're training. And look, it was a very hard championship game played at the top pace. Kilcoo had all their men back, they had a full team to pick from, as did we. So it was probably a bit of a novelty for the supporters and the neutrals to see two teams going at it so early in the championship. Look, as I said before, and we knew, and Kilcoo knew before that the winners of that game were into the next round, and that the losers weren't gone. So, we know that Kilcoo are still in the competition. There's some of the teams that are out already, but at the minute we're totally focused on playing Clonduff on Sunday.
Well, Connor, all the best to you on, as I said to Jarlath there, you beat, in my opinion, two of the best teams in the county. But as one of my analysts said one night there, you don't get any medals at this stage. But the best of luck to you, Anna, and it's going to be an excellent game in Park Esther on Sunday evening. Connor, good luck.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Patsy.
All right, Connor, thanks very much, and best wishes at the weekend.
Lovely, thank you.
Right, lads, moving on. Final game then on coming up on Monday night in the Morgan Fuel Senior Football Championship. Bransford will play Carryduff. Paul Rooney, take it away.
Yes, and we'll go quickly on this one, Jarlath. And both slow starters from what I've seen so far. I've seen them a couple of times each. That both teams are slow starters, and this match could get down to whoever has the best start, Jarlath, because we've seen brands where they didn't start against Clonduff for about 40 minutes, and Carryduff didn't really get going right. They didn't really get into the full swing of it last night, the second half. Any one of these teams plays for their full capability with full match. I tell you what, it'll be an exciting one. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think Bransford can afford to sit back with these young type of footballers running at you. They're going to have to come out of the shell a wee bit and maybe, launch a few attacks in the first half as opposed to what they done last week. And coming to tipping it, Jarlath, I'm coming fresh off seeing Carryduff in a big victory last night, and they'll be going down the road happy men, but I think Bransford just might have the strength and depth and the edge. But me and Patsy's talking about a young man there they have now playing halfback, Paddy Sheridan, and the Danny Salvage. And I know we mentioned Daniel Guinness and young Beatty, and these boys are flying, but are they too young, Jarlath? I think maybe they might be a year too early, and I'm going to tip Bransford in this one, Jarlath. That's my tip for that one, Bransford.
Patsy, give us your tip there quickly.
Well, just to be quick about it, Jarlath, it depends which Bransford team takes the field. If they take with a defensive team that started against Clonduff, Paul says that they didn't get going till about 40 minutes really in that game. Carryduff's in a shout, but Bransford have talent all over that field. Paul mentioned there Danny Savage, young Patrick Sheridan, young Cathal Burns has been having a stormer this last couple of games. And then you have Stephen Poacher up against a good friend of mine, DJ Morgan. I think maybe Paul touched on it there. I think it may be a year too soon for Carryduff. DJ, I love to prove me wrong on that, him and Pat Dougherty. But Mr. Poacher, his tail is up at the moment, and I think he'll guide Bransford to the semi-final. It's a long time since Bransford have been in the semi-final. I think maybe Kilcoo were the last team to defeat them in the semi-final. But I'm going to go for Bransford, Jarlath, by a narrow victory. But as I say, this Carryduff team could surprise us, but stick with Bransford.
Well, I'll tell you this here. I am going to go the opposite way. I ain't going with Carryduff. Now, I haven't seen them play this year. We talked about it 10 minutes ago in relation to what they done to Longstone last night. And it's on that basis that they were able to put 3-10 on the board in Park Esther last night that I'm going with Carryduff in that game. Right? So, moving on, Patsy. We had Gary Farrell on the phone there 20 minutes ago. They have a big one coming up this weekend in the Parador Lodge Intermediate Championship quarter-final versus Annaclone. How do you see that one going?
Well, as I say, some of the Dramara guys says keep tipping us. I'm going to actually go for Dramara here. It's youth against Annaclone, no doubt, are an experienced team. Two players in particular, Kevin Anderson and Benny McCarroll, two excellent players. Both of them were one that played for Down at the time. But it's this youth and exuberance that I'm going to go with Dromara for. And as I say, I've been hearing great reports about them. You know, they're young, they've nothing to lose in this game. And Gary's played for Strava for many years. And I think he managed them one time before. They were beating the junior final at the Connacht there maybe 7-8 years ago. And I think Dromara this will be the shock. This will be the big shock of this round. You know, a lot of people said at the outset we're tipping St John's to win this to win this intermediate championship, and now they're gone. You know, so I'm going to go with Dromara here, maybe to upset the apple cart. I know I have a lot of good friends out in Clonduff there, but I have to go with my heart thinks, and my heart thinks it's
right, Paul.
Dromara.
Thanks, Patsy. Paul,
Yes, I'm going to be quickly on it, Jarlath. And the Clone ones will be all shouting at the screen now. Rooney, don't do it. Because every time I tip this year so far against Dromara have shoved it down my throat. You know what I mean? And I told Gary a while ago that I'm not going to change my ways, and I'm going to tip Clone in this one. But the Clone ones will be shouting, please don't tip us against Dromara. But I'm going to tip Clone, Jarlath, because I've went that way so far, and Dromara have proved it and stuffed it down my throat. And I told Gary earlier on that I wouldn't break the cycle on him, so I'm going with Clone in this one, Jarlath.
That's fair enough. Well, just to let you know, I'll be going with Dromara because the passion was just oozing from Gary Farrell earlier on the improvements that he has seen there in that Dromara team. And let's face it, lads, this is every game now is a championship final for Dromara. So I mean, like this, as Patsy says, this could be the surprise of the round. But wouldn't it be wonderful to see a Division 4 team get into the last four of the intermediate championship? Moving on, Patsy, Saul versus Shamrocks. Two teams that have been going well.
This is going to be a cracker of a game. This would have been a great game to televise, Jarlath. You know, Shamrocks and Saul, two teams. You know, brilliant forwards, brilliant defenders. You know, I talked about Saul earlier in the programme there. They've made great advances. So they have, you know, they had a great minor side a couple of years ago there, and a lot of them lads are on this Saul team. You know, it's very close to call, but I'm not going to go away from the Shamrocks. I've stuck with them the whole way, Jarlath. I'm going to go with Shamrocks, but it'll be a clinking match. You might even need to go to extra time to get a winner here. So it's the Shamrocks for me.
Well, as long as it doesn't go to penalties, we'll not mind about the extra time. Paul, anything to say on that one? I'm sure you have.
Yeah. I'm going to tip Shamrocks, but Newcastle Saturday at 5 o'clock. It'll be some game. I fancy a great game. I'm going to go and relax and enjoy that one, Jarlath. And I'm expecting a great game of football. They've met each other a few times over the last years. There's not much in it. They're both teams is progressing. They both play in the front foot. Marty and the boys said they want to put themselves up against these Saul boys. And like you mentioned there, Patrick Doherty there a while ago, Patsy, he is a young fellow playing with Saul there too, and he'd be watching who we're tipping here as well, you know. So, Patrick, I'm disappointing news for you. I'm tipping Shamrocks in this one as well. So, I hope he speaks to me the next night he sees me in Park, Patsy.
Oh, he will,
right,
surely.
Okay.
He will, surely.
Right, we'll push on, Patsy. Leitrim versus Anrake, two heavyweights in down football going at it here in the quarter-final. Again, Leitrim, that extra week off, is that to their advantage, disadvantage? Anrake posted 2-16 against Ballymartin. Will that stand to them this weekend coming? This is the makings of another cracking game, Patsy.
Absolutely. You know, these two teams, you know, would have been, along with Shamrocks, would have been the three teams that I think we all sort of fancied at the start. And it's just a pity that they're drawn against each other in this quarter final. What both teams have, that have excellent forwards, Jarlath. You've three McCrickets there. You've young Liam Middleton in the middle of the field. There's some excellent Conor McCrickett, Pierce Oak and Rory there. So it's going to be very close, but I'm going to have to shade it for the Kingdom here. I haven't seen late in the year, but I know they've been playing some good football, but I'm going to shade it here. I have a lot of friends up in the Fontenay Park there, but I'm going to have to go on Rake here. Just fancy that it just might be that a little bit too strong for Leitrim. But it could be proved wrong, Jarlath. It could be proved wrong.
Right, okay. Well, time will tell. Paul, what way do you see that one going?
quickly, Jarlath, and it is a heavyweight clash in all form and shape and form in that championship. And like, if you're talking to Enrique and they'll be saying to you, they'd be shaking their head. It's like everybody else. Everybody in the GA is all the same. They'd be sort of saying, we've no chance, with no this, with no that. I tell you what, they get in there every chance, Jarlath, and like they'd love you to say to them, Leitham's a great team, and they're doing this, they're doing that. I tell you what, and Rake's in there where every shout as good as anybody, and I thought they've racked up plenty of good scores and plenty of games this week. I think that one major blip in the whole thing against Drumgath it was, and that's a big shock that was. But they've regrouped, Jarlath. They banged in 2-16 again. Ballymartin, not a bad side. I tell you what, it'll be a tight one, and I'm going to go against Patsy, and I'm going to go with Leitrim by 1 or 2, Jarlath, in a high-scoring game.
Okay. Thanks for that, Paul. And the last game then in the intermediate quarter-final, Clonduff versus Paul, a team that didn't cause any surprises in the last round as far as you were concerned, because you tipped them to get over the line against Enrique, wasn't it?
Enrique, and they got over the line well, and I'm going to tip them again next week. And like, if the Drumgath men were all being honest and truthful, like stand beside the bowl there all night, if they had a choice where they were going to go, I'd nearly say they would have went there. Do you know that, Jarlath? Like, that's the glory of this championship. You have 4 heavyweights there pitted against each other, and then you have Clonduff and Drumgath all now that have to get a queer game for Drumgath to run into the semi-final of an intermediate championship. And I fancy they'll do it, Jarlath, and I fancy them to do it. They'll be sitting, waiting in the semi-final of the championship for somebody, and I tell you what, they'll be hard to deal with, so they will. I'm tipping Drumgath, Jarlath, in this one.
Right, fair enough. Listen, and just to let you know, in that last game, I'm going with Leitrim also, Paul, along with yourself to beat the Kingdom. So you're going with Drumgath on this one. Patsy, how do you see that one going against Clonduff?
It's not often me and Paul agree, but we're going to agree on this one. Drumgath really impressed us with that victory over the Kingdom, hitting 4 goals and 8 points. So goals win games, and that Paul touched on the last day. Some good young players mixed in with a few experienced campaigners that have won this championship on 2 previous occasions. Drumgath, I think they might. Paul mentioned that young fella, Kieran there for Mayobridge, the ace free taker. But I think Drumgath just might be too strong for them on this occasion, John.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to go with a clean sweep there, because I'm going with Drumgath as well. And wouldn't it be wonderful to see Drumgath and Dromara both in an intermediate semi-final? Right, we'll move on then, lads. No junior football last weekend. The draw had already been made for the quarterfinals, which take place this coming weekend. Parador Lodge are the sponsors of the Junior Football Championship. August na Finn versus Ardglass. Paul Rooney, any view on that?
Yes,
give me your tip.
I'm going to tip the Finn in that. I'm going to take the Finn in that one, Jarlath. For the simple reason is they've already beat Ardglass in the championship. They beat them easy enough, and they're a common team, and I don't think it'll be much power. That one's in Ballykillen on Saturday, 2 o'clock, Jarlath, I think. And I'm tip the Finn in that one. I think they should do it handy enough, Jarlath.
Okay, Patsy, what way do you see that one going?
Yeah, I agree with Paul there. The previous victory over Ardglass should stand them in good stead. I have a young nephew, usually plays around the half-forward midfielder, a young Oren Flanagan. He's one of the main free takers for the Finn. So I'm going to go over August na Finn. They were narrowly beaten in last year's Parador Lodge Junior final. So I think they've maybe too much for Ardglass on this occasion.
Fair enough. Okay, moving on then. Dundrum versus Mitchells, Patsy. I'll say nothing except I expect Dundrum to prevail in that game. Cahill will not want to hear that, but I'm tipping Dundrum, Patsy. But you give me your take on that.
Yeah, well, you probably Dundrum will have gone in there as favourites to win this game. They won this junior championship on a few times as well. They're not too distant past there, but I tell you what, when you have a man with the quality of John Trainer, everybody calls him Shorty, but I always call players mostly by They're Christian names, Jarlath, John Trainer at the helm, a man who knows what it is to win championships. He'll instill great confidence into the Mitchells. They'll be going in there with nothing to lose, and I'm going to pop for the Mitchells on this occasion.
Okay, Paul Rooney.
Yes, I'm going to join the Patsy. I've popped for the Mitchells so far, and I expected there would be outside favourites in this. You're right, Jarlath, and like Dundrum would be favourites to win this, but like Dundrum coming away up as far as Drumgath on Sunday for 2 o'clock through, and it'll suit the Mitchells out there in Drumgath, the wee surroundings and all. And I tell you what, the Mitchells turn up. They've young Owen Flynn there, and I tell you what, he's worth watching. And it'll take the Dundrum boys their fill to keep their eye on him. And like Owen Flynn gets going, the Mitchells gets going, it'll be hard to stop. I'm going to tip the Mitchells again in this one, and love to see them in the semi-final of a junior championship this year, Jarlath. And even for Donny, or my young cameraman friend there, he's awful enthusiastic about the Mitchells. And for his own, for Donny there, like he's looking forward to the game, and he's going to training during the week and all, and he's looking forward to it, and he's expecting big things. And I tell you what, with Shorty Trainer, or whatever you like to call him, Patsy John, he has enthusiasm in him anyhow. Whenever I see and have a crack with Donny there after the games, they're enthusiastic for it, and they're looking forward to it, Jarlath.
Right, so the 2 years are going for Mitchells in that one. Yes?
Yes.
Right, okay. Drummond S versus Kilife, Patsy.
Well, this will be another probably the tie of the round in that Pardor Lodge quarter-final championship. Drummond S, we I think most of us on the show here tipped them at the start of the year. You know, you have to remember in 2011, Jarlath, this Kilife team actually won the intermediate championship here in Down. You know, they've lost maybe a few of them players, some of them, maybe one or two still playing yet. They've introduced a few good young players, but I can't get past Drummond S. I live in the Drummond S parish here, and they're very strong, a mixture of youth and experience, and that's a good mixture to have. They were tipped at the start of this as favourites to win this championship, and I'm going to still stick with Drummond S, Jarlath.
Okay, Paul, call it.
Yes, Patsy, tie it around. I'll agree with you on that one. And Jarlath, have a wee soft spot for Kilife. I always had. I'm going to go for Kilife in this one. It's a dogfight. It's a head-to-head. It's the two probably favourites to win the championship. Either team could win it, but I have a wee soft spot for Kilife. I always had. I'm going to tip Kilife in this one, Jarlath.
Okay, well, I am going to swing in behind Patsy in that. I'm going for Drummond S. Last game, lads, that we're going to till preview. St Paul's versus Glasdrummond. Paul, how do you see that one going?
That's I can see no really all result in St Paul's win, Jarlath. To be honest and truthful, that's in Bright on Saturday 2 o'clock. That's Kilife on it's in Saul. But on that one, Jarlath, on Glasdrummond's performance so far, and anything we've seen them or covered on them, it has been very, very, very up and very, very down. St Paul's have been steady. They've been putting up good scores. I keep mentioning these Eastwood lads. I fancy them to break their way into the Down team soon. Love to see a couple of men from out that part of the world breaking onto the Down panel, Jarlath. I'm going to stay with St Paul's and tip them to win this one easy enough.
Okay, Patsy.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Paul here. I seen St Paul's last year in Newcastle in the semi-final of the junior championship, where they lost to Bright by a point. And they showed me enough that day that there will be a team of the future. And, you know, we've talked about Drummond S there all through the championship. St Paul's, I think, can make this final of this championship. And they mightn't be far away. Paul says that there are some great young players there. You know, you touched on a few of them, the young Eastwoods and the young fella Sean Tucker playing for them. So I seen them last year. They ran Bright pretty close, and you know what Bright did? They went on and won the Pardor Lodge Junior Championship. So I'm going to go with St Paul's here on that one, Charlie.
Okay, well, I am going with St Paul's and like as well, because I mean, like as I recall, they've racked up some fairly high and impressive scores in the run up to this game, both in championship and league. So that's a clean sweep there for St Paul's. Lads, that's it for the
just before you go
previews. Go ahead, Paul. Yeah.
Just before you go, Jarlath, I would just like to say hello to a young man, and you probably have heard of him before. A young fella called Sean Cunningham. He's actually a member of the St John's Club. He's out in China, and he's teaching English out there, and he's also teaching GAA skills to the Chinese. He's taken them over here. They were the Munster final a couple of years ago. They also played an exhibition game at Crook Park. So Sean came home from China in February on a wee holiday, but with this COVID not, he hasn't got back out to China yet. So saying hello to Sean, his father Jerry and mother Bruna down there in the parish of Drumnacoy.
Very good, Patsy. And I seen somebody was on to you earlier about the Torella crew. Say hello to the Torella crew.
Yeah, that's a young man, I think, from Patrick, Michael McMahon, and the Torella crew there. I was doing a bit of work out at Torella Beach there last year, and had some great chat with a lot of good young footballers there. Youthful footballer, young fella too, Jamie, can't think of his second name, from Flash Drummond. He played in that St. Columban's All-Ireland winning team that Mr. Poacher coached. So it's nice that people are sending messages into the show here, Jarlath, and as I say, the viewers just love our views. They mightn't always agree with them, but sure, if we're all the same, Jarlath, wouldn't it be a pretty boring old world, wouldn't it?
I think, listen, I think that's a very good summary. Go ahead, Paul.
Just for me on a wrap up, Jarlath, I'm looking forward to the now Super Sunday in Park Ailsa, and you're going to be involved in yourself, and hopefully everybody will be sitting at their laptops next Wednesday night, ready for us to come on and dissect the ongoings of what happened in Park Ailsa and Rostravar's big victory in the championship. You never know what would happen, but in saying that, before we get off the subject, Jarlath, we touch on a lot of stuff on this show, and it's all our own opinion. And as I say it, the GAA, I treat the GAA as a sort of a family, and like, you meet lots of friends in the GAA that you would never meet, Jarlath, if there was no GAA, and you meet people that you would never ever come across in your normal everyday life. And on this show here, I have met and I've felt in my GAA life, I've met loads and loads of people. And after this show, or if this show is over, I want them still all to be my friends, Jarlath. It's only our opinion. We love doing it. We hope we analyse the Mayobridge Clonduff match as best we could. Well, hopefully we've done a good job in Kilcoo and Bourne last week, and that's what we're here to do, Jarlath. I enjoy it. Patsy enjoys it. I think the viewers, by the talk I'm getting around the grounds, are enjoying my predictions, which are, to say the least, haphazard, Jarlath. But it's all part of the show. It's all part of the crack. And anybody that's tuned in to watch it, I'm glad you are. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to support the thing. And I'm looking forward to the big weekend of football again, Jarlath.
Yeah, and we have to congratulate Cattle here for putting this show together, Jarlath. I think maybe down football maybe needed something like this. People love to hear opinions of how matches are going to go. And I understand a lot of people mightn't watch us actually live, but I think I looked up there during the week. There was something like 8,500 had viewed the show. So people are interested, Jarlath. There's no doubt about it.
So if anybody out there wants to, just to add to that, Jarlath, if anybody out there wants to put their name on you see the Rooney screen there, they can give me a ring and we'll discuss the fees. Do you know what I mean?
Their
logo,
all right.
We can put their name or logo up, whatever suits best.
The Sace guy's looking for punters, Jarlath. You never know.
That's it, Patsy. That's it. Well, here, lads, it's a pleasure as always. That hour and 3/4 has just flown by this week, and you get into the seat there at 7 o'clock and you say, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to fill this hour? And before you know it, you're pushing on 9 o'clock. So I really, really enjoy it. Some cracking games coming up this weekend. Have we confirmation yet about what's been televised, Patsy? Are you commentating on?
Yeah, well, I haven't got the commentary ready yet, but I can tell you the 3 games that's going to be on. In the afternoon, it's Kilcoo against Rostravar. Sunday night, it's Clonduff against St. Peter's Warrenpoint, and then on Monday night it's Brantford against Kerryduff, as far as I'm aware, Jarlath.
Okay. Well, a weekend I really, really to look forward to, and I'm away to start and practice rubbing my hands because I'll be doing plenty of it from about 5 o'clock onwards on Sunday.
I love your enthusiasm. I love it.
Oh no, but sure, so what else do we have?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's it.
Enjoy the weekend, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. All right.
Good night, folks. Good night, Jarlath. Good night, Paul. Bye.
Later, everyone.